Bem-vindos ao nosso terceiro Spiral Talks. Hoje a gente vai conversar com o Yuji e o convidado é o Alex Dias, que é bailarino, artista, pesquisador, coreógrafo, lá de Belo Horizonte, está fazendo o mestrado dele na UFMG, e ele tem formação em Feldenkrais. Então, hoje a gente vai falar um pouco sobre essas duas perspectivas, passando pelas questões da consciência e da metodologia de cada um e trocando um pouco das experiências. Foi uma conversa bastante interessante, eu espero que vocês gostem. Esse é um projeto apoiado pela FAPEMIG e pela UFMG.
Hello, I'm Alex. I'm a dancer, I'm a choreographer and a dance teacher, and I'm also a Feldenkrais practitioner. And now I'm enrolled in the master degree here in the Federal University of Minas Gerais in Brazil. And that's it. That's what I'm doing right now.
So the first question for you guys, it's just about somatic education. I want to hear you about what is this, because people come to us and maybe don't know yet what this means. So let's talk about somatics.
Well, I see the somatics as an expanded field. I don't think somatics, you can say that somatic is a technique or it is a method, but it's a field that deals with the knowledge and all the how can I put it, this body-mind approach. I think somatic is when you look this holistic look to the human being and the movement and then all the things that we do in our daily life. I mean, it's more an approach than a technique, and we look at the whole, people as a whole, not in segments, but it's the whole thing. What do you think, Yuji?
Yes, no, I totally agree. The holistic part is a very defining factor. And another thing that I think is really, really important is the feeling that what we source, our sources, is from our own inner experience. So as opposed to, I think that there is a very strong dichotomy between objective and subjective sort of processing. And normally when we do our learning and we do our education, I think we focus on the external. We focus on the science, the external science. And what we're doing in somatics is focusing on the experiential information that we have within ourselves, our sensations, our experience, our emotions, our thoughts, our intuitions. And I think that that becomes the source. So it's a very, very different type of processing that is not quantitative the way science is, but it's qualitative. It's all about how the quality in which we experience something.
Yeah, but we are talking too about education. So can we think that somatic education, it's something that ourselves have to do, like this kind of education, it's for each one's cover inside there? What do you think?
Well, for me, I think this is a really important part of all somatic traditions, I think, is that because there is this inner focus to where we look, the idea that that the person who is experiencing becomes the main person and becomes the center of the investigation. So even when there is a teacher or a guide or a giver, or however you want to say it, the emphasis is on shaping the internal experience of the person who is exploring. So I think that this is a kind of internal education. And I think that separates it again from external forms of education, in that our experience and ourselves as being the people who are experiencing the experiences becomes the central part of how we learn, rather than from outside books or what we're looking into ourselves to figure out what's going on.
Yeah. Do you agree?
Yeah, I do. In somatics, we have the learning process. I think it's the most fundamental thing, because it's more than, it's not me as a teacher that I would tell you that this is going this way or that's going that way. Like you just said, the experience, the way the people experience the method of, the somatic approach, whatever it is, will be the line, the guide of the healing process, if they are looking for some kind of this. No, if I made myself clear, but it's that that process of learning that I'm totally inside the learning process.
Yeah. That's why awareness is so important for somatic techniques. Feldenkrais used to say that about the technique, his technique, it's awareness through the movement. And what you can say about this, Alex?
Yes. Well, Feldenkrais, Moshe Feldenkrais named one of the applications of the method as awareness through movement. When you have the movement as this skill or this key to discover who you are, or how do you behave, or how do you function. Now that's why it is interesting, this name now, awareness through movement, or ATM, how we call it in the Feldenkrais field. But is this, the movement is the guide, is this path where you can learn from yourself about yourself, how you act, your actions are, how you move, how are those functions that you do in the daily life. And another application of the Feldenkrais method that helps us to understand that it calls functional integration. And it's like exactly this. It's the integration of the whole person. It's integrating from the function movement. And then it's these two applications of the method, it's very distinct. One, the functional integration, is one-to-one, hands-on technique. And the other one, the awareness through movement, it's a class, it's a group class. When you have this this verbally oriented movement sequence.
Yuji, and if it's the same thing for spiral practice, what's the role of awareness in spiral practice? Because that's a word that I didn't hear you saying yet.
Yes, awareness is huge. Is at the basic. You know, I actually have a very, very strong feeling for Feldenkrais, because it was one of the first modern somatic systems that I had learned in university. And, you know, I was looking very much at the idea of perception at that time. You know, we were looking with dance, and I was interested in the Judson choreographers, and they're all working with this idea of perception. And the way I understood awareness through movement is that that there cannot be any awareness without change, without some change in your perception. So for me, this movement is not just physical movement, but it has to do with this idea of flow. So on any level, whether you're thinking or whether you're emotion or whether you're moving, you have this thing where there's changes in your perception. And those changes create what we call awareness or consciousness, the fact that we realize something is happening inside of us. So I think awareness and movement can't really even be separated. They're almost equivalent. The fact that movement creates perceptions, and perceptions then become the stuff that we start to work on when we're starting to you know, figure out what we can do with this sensation, what we can figure out about ourselves.
When you say, Yuji, when you say to differentiate, I don't know if I got it, because I agree that we learn when you we start to differentiate things. And the awareness to movement, we do this. We differentiate movement, we differentiate ways of doing the same action. I mean, and then I think this is very close to spiral movement, to spiral praxis. A little bit about a node of spiral praxis, but this kind of when we start to approach from different variations of the same function,
yes,
or the same way of doing something.
And I also think that in Feldenkrais and inside of spiral praxis, there is this thing where we try to get to thresholds, which is very, very important in Feldenkrais. So in Feldenkrais, for example, one of the first things we learn, a lot of the work deals with small oscillations, very, very small, subtle movements. It was because Feldenkrais was interested in working with the nervous system. There's two different parts of the nervous system. There's the sympathetic, which is the more sort of big movements that we make, and the parasympathetic, which has to do with the smaller, more unconscious movements we make, that he felt was very important to get attuned to so that there's a balance. And that aspect of somatics is something that spiral praxis, has. I have been very much inspired by Feldenkrais's work. We look at the conscious and unconscious, as we've discussed this before, and it's the same kind of idea. They may be a little bit expanded past this idea of the physical organ instruction, but even looking at, let's say, the conscious unconscious functions in emotions and thoughts and so forth. We're always working with that threshold, the division between conscious, the way we function when we're in a very conscious way of being, and then when we're in a more receptive, unconscious, more small movements, small gradations, the subtlety of our flow.
Oh, yeah. So we all agree that perception is important for movement. It's fundamental for movement. And when we talk about these subjects, we call dance to the discussion. So I want to know more about how dance can relate it with Feldenkrais, and what's the difference when we are talking about movement. What's the difference between movement and dance? Because that's a question, it's an important question. Sorry. Do you know what I mean? We are talking about how perceptions turn movement. I want to know about how perceptions turns dance, and then how is the difference to becomes movement or dance? It's complex.
It is complex. But let's see, when you say perception, I always connect perception with action. What I mean this, in this research that I'm doing right now, connecting Feldenkrais and dance, what I'm trying to see with more is that when you perceive something in yourself and internally, let's put this way, and you do some movement, this movement will be the action of your perception. And when you move, you are also perceiving other things and acting. So it's a chain that's all connected. And I think when we're dancing, we are in that point, in this interval of things, when all the things comes together, the space, what you're perceiving in your around, in your environment, what you're perceiving inside of you, and how do you relate to those things. And then you're
Yeah,
going to...
I understand, but there's a difference between movement and dance. So that's the point of my questions. Movement and dance is in this chain that you told us about, but something changed the movement to dance, you know? What do you think?
Yeah. Well, I'd like to point to some of the historical currents that were happening at the time when these things were created. Feldenkrais, all the main sort of modern pioneers of somatics came around the, well, that's not true. There's Alexander and stuff from the turn of the century, but there was a very fertile time in the late 60s and early 70s where things were happening. And, there was this whole exploration in art and in culture. There was this influx between Eastern and Western sort of things, this exchange. And for me, one of the things that was really important at the time was what was happening in dance then. And what was happening in dance, that there was a lot of choreographers, modern choreographers, who just took away everything about the theater. This is the Judson group. Mm-hmm. And they started seeing all movement as being possibilities for dance. And I love this idea. Mm-hmm. This was something that completely changed my education. I was in university, I was doing ballet. And as soon as I figured that out, it was done. Like I just said, okay, I will learn to do the dancing because I have to learn, for maybe to be in a company or something like this. But I decided that the idea that all movement is dance is a very interesting concept. And I think that this idea of flow and dance and even modern culture right now, the world that we live in, has come into this place that we no longer can see things as being just sort of specialized disciplines and stuff, but we see this like very dynamic interplay of things happening all the time. What Alex was talking about, the interplay of like body and action and perception, but even more generally in terms of our culture and the way we learn nowadays through the internet and all this kind of stuff, everything is dancing. So I like to think of everything as being dancing. It's not so much a change in, as if there was always movement and dancing, but a shift in our way of looking at movement.
Yeah. Oh, it's a burn question because I was thinking everything is dancing or every movement can be dancing, there is a little different that maybe because when we are dancing, sometimes we have an intention. The movement has intention, a different intention that just, do something at home, So I understand this concept and I love it. I can take a movement from someone on the streets and study this movement and change this movement and then create something in dance. But for me, it's different. This movement that I said on street, I saw and on street, and what I do with this movement to become dance. I don't know. It's a hard question. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it is. But what I like to think about it, it's when I'm dancing, I like to think that I'm like brushing my teeth, washing something, this kind of regular things, regular actions that we do in our daily life.
Just.
And we dance. So I don't think we can put dance. I understand what you're saying, and I agree. It's very difficult to do a concept, what is dance and what is not dance. Movement is dance. All movement is dance. Movement or not, I don't know. But when you think that when you are dancing, you are in your regular daily activity, I think that would be so great when it brings dance close to what you are. And that's this place, I think the somatics can bring something that we can share with this kind of thought. When you dance as you are in your home washing dishes, for example. why not? And then I can do a grand tour. And a tour en l'air, but a tour en l'air could be watching my dancing.
Yeah, no matter what, just keep dancing.
It brings dance. I like to think about this, to bring dance close to yourself, and not dance be a technique or a way of doing this kind of a style, but it's close to you.
Yeah, I was thinking about Pina Bausch, who take these gestures and repeat, and then she brings the dance to the show. It's about wash the dish, you know. I know, but maybe I'm trying to see what's creation process, and what's the dancing. But we can always dance at home. We can dance at a show, and you know, we have always this question: what's the dance in the end? So it's just to provocate a little bit.
Yeah, it is good to
we can answer that. It's impossible, I know.
But go ahead, Yuji, please.
Well, I just want to bring again some of the kids' work, and you see Helena or some other children going through this. I think they go through this question also, and it's very pragmatic, though. It's part of the thing, and I think that you can see that there is both sides of the question. There is this sort of thing, anything is dance, but then the process makes a difference. Mm-hmm. How do you actually learn? Do you learn it straight? Do you learn it from a point of view of maybe just picking it up, the vibe? Like when Isidora's moving Helena, she's going to learn it differently than if I teach her, because she's just pushing herself and takes her head and just pushes her, right? And something happens. So I think that you have an interesting question about, like, to make it meaningful, the question, we have to sort of start to look at, well, what kind of processes does it mean to learn through a dance method as opposed to a thing? And I think, again, it is a difficult question. And dancers, even Pina Bausch, for example, uses very highly trained dancers as well. So but her work is all about not letting that show. It's not important. It's not the important thing. But it does add something. It does make a difference that all her our dancers are trained. So I think this is something that we're all trying to figure out about what does it make. There is a difference. There has to be a difference. Otherwise, it's, if we just say it's the same, it doesn't really create any kind of discussion. But what are those processes? Is it improvisation? Is it choreography? How do we choreograph? Do we let the dancers choreograph? This is very common nowadays. Dancers choreographing and stuff. So I think we're always expanding the vocabulary of what dance is and coming up with different processes to discover what that.
I'm just to be clear, I'm not trying to close this vocabulary. It's just to provocate and to think about. But I know dance is not the only field that people can work with somatics. So I want to talk about health. People comes to you to have some different approach for health. So I want to know about your experience in Feldenkrais and Spiroprax for health.
Well, I work with Feldenkrais in both applications, both modalities, awareness through movement and functional integration. And it's that people came to those things with different questions. Mostly, most of the people who comes to me to do functional integration comes because they have some pain or some kind of injury, and they want to know what they can do, because physiotherapy didn't help them, other therapists didn't help them. And we are kind of the last thing that they going to seek for help. And then from this, it's very interesting when they come to me, because they also come with the complaints. Now, oh, I have this back pain that I have to deal with this a lot of time, and I did a lot of things that didn't help me. And then I start to do some movements, some touch. The functional integration is hands-on. So I touch them, and I'm going to see what's is not working, what's not connecting. Because one thing that is very interesting, and you're talking about health, and I think that health, it's we can think about connections. And sometimes people comes to me wishing that I will fix them. And I just say, well, I will not fix you, but we can connect the things together. So how can you do this movement without pain? Yuji told this before, this little movement that Feldenkrais start with very little, very subtle movements. And then we start to think, to see together what's going on, what can spread this knowledge, this conscious awareness through the whole body, and what happens then. And awareness through movement lessons and classes, people comes to be more okay with their bodies. With us, I mean, I want to do something that's nice for me, and starting to do something different. So I think it's my experience, and this is what I'm seeing. But health, it's for me. It's more than not being ill. I think we have to be well in the whole system. Feldenkrais has a quote, a phrase that's very interesting, that health for him is to realize your dreams. And I think that's a good way to seek health, when you can go to realize your dreams.
Oh, that's beautiful. Health's not about pain, it's about dreams. Just kidding. So, how is that for you, Yuji?
Oh, I find that people are very sophisticated nowadays. Yeah. And they come in and they've already done a mountain of work. You know, they've talked to their therapists, they talked to their friends, they've tried everything under the sun. And so I feel like things have really changed in terms of people's questions. I think they're looking for a lot of balance. I had one person, for example, she was a person who was we were working on his back. And, we were doing all the physical things and it was all going well and stuff. But the next morning he came back to me and he said, Yuji, it's back again. I said, did you do anything at night? He said, no, I did nothing. And I said, well, it doesn't just come, something must happen. He said, nothing. And I said, well, did you have a good night's rest? He goes, well, it's okay. And then I asked him a little bit more. It turns out that he was starting to have nightmares. Oh. And he was actually an Israeli soldier. He had killed a person. He had come in very young and he had killed some people, and it was coming back to him at night. And these are the types of things, you know,
it's
I think
not a dream.
it's not a dream. It's a flashback, you know, and you know, so that became part of the situation. And again, as soon as he didn't really realize the connection between these things, but it's as Alex says, it's about these connections. And nowadays, like I said, people understand so many different dimensions of the things, and they're trying to piece it together. So I think a lot of health nowadays is people trying to find balance, trying to figure out, again, questions of like what seems to be lots of facts that are, you know, here and there, actually sort of come together when they start to figure out these things. And this is, for me, the exciting adventure in Body Mind when you're dealing with that kind of situation, to figure out the balance and what's really going on in the situation.
All right. So you talk about physical things, Alex about hands-on. So we're going to talk about methodology. What's happened in a session of spiral praxis, or in a session, I don't know, that's depend of the case, that's depend of the person, but you have some fundamentals for the technique. So how is a session, a spiral praxis session and a failed and cried session?
Maybe I'll start. For me, a spiral praxis session, I don't really think too much about the different ways. Yes, we use massage, yes, we use meditation, this kind of thing. But we basically, most of the work happens internally inside the person. So it is using meditation, but in a much more active sense. So rather than just saying, I'm sitting here and I am trying to clear my mind in traditional meditation, this might be the case. We're actually taking sensations and we are starting to adapt them, to adjust them, to what we call modulate them. So that, and this is the key to understanding modern somatics, I think, is that we're getting to a point where we're starting to understand that our experiences are not fixed. We actually have quite a degree of control over how we perceive, how we can guide internally what we do. And so what we do in spiral praxis is very much about that. I may use body work and so forth to indicate to that person, to try to show them the experience that I want them to feel, but I want them to ultimately start to implement it.
Yeah.
So we are working a lot with what we call flow patterning. That means taking sensations in the body and starting to direct them into space and in time to dance, to move with them. And to also use what we call reflex work, which is ways of modulating. There are certain ways that you can shape your experience so that it becomes easier to get into flow. So all these things about self-regulation and stuff is, for me, and what I feel spiral praxis has to offer is a very, very active approach. Dancing, in a sense, like literally feeling that it's not that you sort of arrive at some kind of health where the flow comes because you're healthy, but rather it's because your impulses, you start to learn how to move in the way that you want to move. And as Alex said, to sort of, I like this idea, what you were saying about to go to your highest self, your expression, you know, it's yes.
What about failed and cried?
Well, in a session of failed and cried, we start with a function. It's the very important thing for the failed and cried method. It's a function, and function for us is any movement that has intention and that that help us to survive. So I can bring my hand to my mouth, so I'm gonna eat something. Or I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna grab something, or look around. So we start independent of the complaint, but if somebody comes to me, oh, I have this back pain. So in what movement do you have this pain? So in this, how's the function that goes in there that can help to release that pain? And it's kind of systemic. We look at the systemic whole. So if I'm going to grab something, and what's going on here? What's going on in my shoulder, my ribs, and my pelvis, whatever. And then I'll try to help them. Hands-on is this, it's a touch. So I would like to help them to understand what's going on there, to get more awareness what this system, what this dysfunction can be more free to them. And then we go in this. But one thing that is very interesting, we start at the point that the person is, and not. I mean, some people can say, "Oh, I had this injury 2 years ago." Okay, but now, what's going on now? And from now, we're going to see how we can move better. And when you move better, we start to feel better.
Yeah,
And
now I'm kind of having a back pain, so exactly now sitting on this ball, maybe I can have a session after this talk. So now it's time to you guys make questions for each other. So who starts?
Well, I want to know, did you actually meet Feldenkrais? Did he come to Brazil?
Feldenkrais?
Yes.
I don't think so. Alex?
No. He didn't came to Brazil. I met Feldenkrais method, not Moshe Feldenkrais, but when I start dancing, I start dancing in my 20s. I started dance late, so I was looking for something to help me to understand it, to comprehend more what I'm doing, what I was doing, what I'm trying to do with my body, whatever. And then I found the book, the Awareness Through Movement book from Moshe Feldenkrais. That was my first encounter with the Feldenkrais method. And then I start to see that there was the things that I was reading, and in that specific book, we have some lessons there. He wrote some lessons, and I did those lessons. And I start to see an echo with my dance, with my movement. I start to be more free to start moving to dance. And then I left it behind a little for a while, and then I knew that they were starting the trainings in Brazil. So I did the training because I would like to know more about myself, about my movement, about my expression in dance. I started Feldenkrais because I'm a dancer, because of my dancing. And then I began to spread it a little more. I don't know if I answer you, but
yeah, but I don't know if I'm right, but you did part of your training in US, no?
No, I did some classes in New York. When I lived in New York, I did some classes back there in late 80s.
All right.
And but the training it was here in Brazil.
Okay. And now you are doing your master in Feldenkrais and dance.
Yes, I'm trying to put it together.
Great.
And thinking there, how can Feldenkrais help create dance? That's my question. Because it's not it's a movement method, but it's not a dance method.
Yeah.
So how can this work can help me, help other people to be more creative and to create dance, to improvise and whatever?
Maybe when you end your master, you can tell us the difference between movement and dance.
Oh, well, maybe. Or I'll be more confused about that.
Yeah, probably more confused. And then you have to do your PhD.
Yeah, for sure.
So do you have a question for Yuji?
Yes, I have as in Feldenkrais, that we have these two applications, the group sessions, the group classes, and the hands-on session. In Spiral Praxis, do you work with, I know that we work with hands-on, but we have some classes for people without touching or just moving.
Yes,
Yes.
for sure. Yeah, for sure. As I said, I think the ultimate goal in this work is to get people to be able to do that on their own, inside themselves. And there's so much exciting work that's being done nowadays and it's not just in the somatic field. It is somatics, but it's not mind, body, mind. There's so many things going on now. There's a guy in the Netherlands. He's a deep sea diver. He's working with breathing, and there's guys like Wim Hof, or there's many people who are working in this realm where they are just trying to see applications of body mind, different kind of aesthetic towards body mind, and what's going on. So I just see this work. For me, this work is primarily about going another step and trying to make it very relevant. Like, for example, working with the kids. I've been taking this work to conferences and stuff, and there are medical people who want to know about this type of work. I'm working with a pharmaceutical company. I never think I would do that, but they somehow found out about the work, and they don't have a means. They know the thing that happens in the lab, but they also know that they need to have a follow-up. And they have an incentive because they have to show good results. So there is conferences now. There are collaborations that are happening between many, many different disciplines. And I think this is the exciting thing about somatics and body mind in general, is that it's really a large place, and it's not just a niche sort of thing. There's an interest everywhere to figure things out. And Spiral Praxis is all about trying to make it very, very relevant in that sense, to be able to apply it in different situations, practical situations.
Great. Do you have any more questions?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I'm very glad to be here because I'm a fan of your work. The little bit that I know, I don't know deeply this, but I think that we have similarities in the work, in the thinking of how to work with people, and that's what I like very much this kind of work.
Yeah,
especially when we work with dance.
Yeah. In fact, there's an important thing to say. Alex used to work with Elena, maybe a year working with her. And then Yuji comes and he could note the difference in Elena because she's more awareness.
Yeah. She started out from a very, very sophisticated place. And I think this is the work that you were doing with her. I loved also this whole idea of collaboration and feeling, again, that different people speak. You're bringing this whole dance thing into the situation with all this project. And I just find it very fascinating, again, how people from different fields start to come together to see similarities in what they're doing and to make something happen.
Yeah. Great talk. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Okay.
So that's all for today. If you have any question for Yuji or Alex, you can leave your question here and they are gonna answer you. See you in the next Spiral Talks.